What is up, podheads? Back with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Twan, right? Is that your name?
Wow, that's a throwback. I mean, we've said it on this podcast, but we haven't said it in a long time. Yeah. I go by Anthony these days, though.
You do, yeah. Your name is Anthony. I'm sorry. I call you Twan. Every now and then you hear Twan. I probably don't do it much in the episodes. We always tell people during the intro, like, I might call him Twan. Don't, just ignore me.
Yeah, it's all like fine print. It's like, hey, if you you can swear, you know, there's nothing flagrant we're going to say, and you might hear me call Anthony Twan.
Yeah, you just might hear me call him his childhood nickname that he's been running from for 25 years. But, you know, that's what we do. That's what we do around here. We have some fun with it. So, yeah, Twan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good because I'm not sick. So
this is true.
I don't know when this is going to come out, but either the last episode or the one before that, clearly I was sick. Clearly I wasn't sick in the intro, but I was sick during the interview.
I know,
there were
right?
2 interviews back there. I don't know. All the episodes blend in. The weeks blend in. What's the Smash Mouth lyric? The years stop coming,
and they don't stop coming. I got a story about that for you. You want to hear? This is funny. We were languishing. We were languishing before we started recording the intro, and I was like, I don't have anything to talk about. I don't know what we're gonna do. This is stupid. I'm overthinking it. Let's just jump in. And you just gave me something.
Beautiful.
So last summer, my wife and I are driving to her grandmother's camp in New Hampshire, right? Middle of nowhere, New Hampshire. And we stop halfway to get lunch and hang out. And I'm like, hey, I want to get a coffee on the way out. Dunkin' Donuts is right there. Walk into Dunkin' Donuts, and the kid that's working behind the counter is obviously in control of the music because he's playing Smash Mouth's All-Star, but just, and the years stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, over and over and over again. It's like a meme. It's a YouTube video. And I look at him, and I start laughing, and he looks at me like, this guy fucking gets it.
This guy gets it. Yeah,
that happened. That just jogged that memory in my memory bank. So thank you.
I'm glad I could plant that seed. Yeah. Hey, let's have a little debate here. Smash Mouth, overrated, underrated, properly rated?
Underrated.
Underrated. You think they get shit on so much?
Yes. Underrated. Underrated band. Rest in peace, Steve Harwell. That first, I mean, Walking on the Sun's a banger. I know people.
Was it Fush You Mang or something?
Yeah, Fush You Mang or yeah.
I think I got that.
And people shit on All Star, but All Star is a very well crafted pop song. Like we're still talking about it 25 years later, right? So
if you listened to all 240, 38, 39, whatever it is episodes, you probably heard me say that I got Third Eye Blind's self-titled CD in my Easter basket. I think I got that first. I don't know if it was the first, but the big one, the first big Smash Mouth record, Fush You Mang or whatever it is, in my Easter basket as well.
Wow, what an Easter basket! Shout out Rick.
Oh, and I actually this is the Smash Mouth episode. I think it was a TikTok or it was a meme or something. I don't know, social media, where this guy was like the 5 best hardcore band names from non-hardcore bands, and Smash Mouth was on the list.
Oh, it's a great hardcore band name, and they were not a hardcore band, so. But no, I think they're underrated, and that is not how I thought this intro was going to go, that we'd get into Smash Mouth lore and talk about them for a couple of minutes. But we did have a guest tonight. We had Steve Kleisath of Further Seems Forever and many other things, but talked about Hide Nothing, 20 years of Hide Nothing, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I tell him this in the episode. I'm like, dude, if you told me, I don't know, a year ago, said, hey, when did Hide Nothing come out? I'd be like, I don't know, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. The fact that it's been 20, I can't believe it. We like to do these kind of 20-year retro, 25-year retro episodes. And we get into a lot of that. We get into kind of where the band's at now. We get into just Steve being kind of a savant in a lot of different areas. Anything with like hand-eye coordination, anything with his hands. You know, he's a 2-time world record holder? He's a world record holder with the original Mario. Yeah. And I think he's 3rd in Miss Pac-Man Turbo, he said.
Yeah.
And YouTube his name, Steve Kleisath, video games or Pac-Man or whatever, and Mario. You'll find videos of him in action, and you can spend a lot of time going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, there's some fun different things right up front, and then we dig into Hide Nothing, the reissue coming on Iodine Recordings, and there's all the variants and how the record came to be, and the addition of Jon Bunch and all that stuff. It's all in there. It's a fun convo. Steve knows how to drive standard and is a blast to talk to.
Yeah, and Iodine is the perfect home for something like this. I think they do it right. Like we got a taste of it when we got the quicksand slip reissue.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
yep.
There's no detail that doesn't that's not overlooked. It's just quality, and this is a deluxe gatefold jacket. There's a retrospective essay. It's updated artwork. It's remastered. It's the full nine. There's no corner cut. And hey, maybe this is the catalyst for more FSF stuff. And if it is,
oh yeah,
thank you to those guys, and thank you to Iodine for hopefully making that happen.
Yeah, shout out Casey, former guest of ours as well, about a year ago. And yeah, let's get into our conversation with Steve Kleisath right now.
Well, Steve, I don't know if you can see my background here, but I'm a Revelation Records fanboy, and I got to tell you, Hearts Once Nourished with Hope and Compassion is easily a top 5 Rev album. I think it was released through Crisis, and then I think it did get a proper Rev release, but it is a top 5 Rev release for me. I love that album.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
And the drumming's got a big part of it. Chad's got a big part of it. I fucking love that record.
Yeah, that was a fun record to make at the time. We did that record at no, I don't know if it was at Morris. Yeah, it was at Morristown, I think. I know Steve Heritage was the guy who engineered it from Asuk. Trying to remember if it was actually Morristown, because that's where Scott Burns always used to work out of, the death metal guy. But it was somewhere around there where we did Hearts Once Nourished. And yeah, it was an interesting album to make at the time.
It's crazy. It's like almost 30 years old, at least 25 years old.
Yeah, the gray shows it on my end. But
yeah. Same, man. The time goes fast, and all of a sudden you're looking back on shit that was 20, 25 years ago, and you're like, wow. And then we're going to talk about Hide Nothing here in a few here.
Speaking of, yeah,
20 years of that now this year. So, but yeah, so we're doing some prep. We're getting ready to talk to you. We've got a couple of things that come across that we're looking up. We know you're a drumming wizard. We know you're a video game savant. And I like to think of myself kind of as one too. Probably not on your level, but what other hidden talents do we not know about you?
Well, I'm actually, my other, what's becoming a career now is DFS, which is daily fantasy football, the DraftKings and FanDuel variety. So I am currently a co-host of a YouTube broadcast that happens every week. If you go to 1 Week Season, ONEWEEK season on YouTube, and you just look up FanDuel for each week, it is myself and my host, Mike Johnson. We do a roster construction strategy show, how to build, good lineups that have the chance at taking down tournaments in the world of fantasy football. So that's become kind of another part-time job to really close to life-changing career when things break right. And I actually had a good start to this season. Week 1, I finished first in a tournament on FanDuel for about $4,000.
Wow.
That was the first time I had I had finished in the top 10 quite a bit in that tournament, but never had got to first place. It's a small field tournament, but about 500 people in it. But that was amazing start to the season. Not faring so well this week so far, but it's more about the process than the result. And so, yeah, it's a very interesting, yet something else. Somebody on the face of it who knows me or knows about me would, It's like one of those things, like, so you're into that too, kind of thing.
We'll use that. I'm going to use that to beat my friends next week. So I appreciate you giving us that little tip.
There's something else kind of unique that I'm currently doing. I'm all over the place. I do a lot of different things, but if you ever come to Disney, there's a downtown that's called Disney Springs.
Oh yeah,
and I know do you know it? Okay.
Yeah, we was there last year.
Were you here?
No, this year. I was there this year. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, there's a unique job that I do 2 nights a week at Disney Springs. There's a restaurant called the Boathouse, which is kind of in the middle of Disney Springs. Okay. Right next to it, there's something called an amphicar launch, and I'm actually one of the captains that drives the cars in the water.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, that's
so
fun
these
too.
are amphibious vehicles They were built in the 60s, and they're basically 4-speed, 4-cylinder manual stick shift cars with boat parts on them, bilge pump, back propellers. And I do a captain guided 20-minute tour around the lake for a car that fits up to 4 people.
So, Steve, I'm not shitting you. I think I took some photos of those when I was there earlier this year. So I'm going to look to see if you're in them. You're in them.
Possible. I've been doing that for about a year. I'm only there 2 nights a week, though. It's very part-time, but it's a very fun, unique job. I've just something random I came across. My wife used to work for Disney, and so she had kind of came across it. She's like, "Oh, this would be a good fit if you're to do something supplementally." So,
and it keeps your hands driving a stick. It keeps your hands moving, man. I miss driving a standard. I grew up. I learned on one when I was 15, so I do remember doing that. No one knows how anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, I did grow up driving a stick as well. These are basically you're driving in neutral, or you have it in neutral when you're in the water, and then you have to drop in the first gear to be able to make it up the ramp. And then these amphicars, they drive 7 knots, up to 7 knots in the water and 70 miles an hour on land. So it's a very unique vehicle / craft.
Anthony, you know how to drive a stick?
I practiced on a friend's car in high school and grinded the shit out of it. But he encouraged it because I think he wanted a new car. So he just like, go, Ian.
I almost said, was it Ian? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You got to perfect the muscle memory of your legs or you'll grind.
Yeah, I went, and we're now way off the deep end, literally and figuratively. I had a 1994 Nissan Sentra that was a 5-speed that I learned on, and at one point, the clutch was going, the starter was going, but I could pop the clutch to start it, so I put it on the hill. I parked it on this little incline at my mom's house, and would just put my foot on the ground and start it like Fred Flintstone and pop the clutch and get it going for probably like 6 months because I didn't have any money to pay for a starter.
Kids these days don't know the struggle.
Did you think we'd be going down this road, Steve? Probably not, right?
Everything's automated. These kids don't know. I'm kidding. No, well, that's the cool thing with any road you guys want to go down, we'll explore it.
So with drums, I imagine that you've always been very active over the years, so you can keep sharp on the drums. What about on the video game front? Do you have to practice for that, or is it just natural?
I'm kind of semi-retired now because it's really time consuming. But yeah, I'm currently the Guinness Twin Galaxies World Record holder in original Mario Brothers. So the actual stand-up cabinet, not the console, the actual game from 1983. So I have a score of 5.4 million points. That's currently never been beaten. And I've held this record since 2015. But yeah, I had to practice. Well, it's one of those things where I played it when I was a kid. I knew I was good at it for some odd reason. And then when these video game documentaries started coming out,
King of Kong.
I got to know
the King of Kong.
Yeah. Some of these other ones too. What was it? I forgot. There's another one. Oh, High Score. That's a good one. I started kind of looking up what the records were on some of these games. I'm like, hey, I can beat that. And so, but it took some practice and some free time. And if somebody beats it now, they can have it. I'll never try to beat it back. It's just too. It's ironically physically taxing.
Oh, I bet.
It was 5 hours, right? I saw the YouTube video. Wasn't it 5 hours long?
About a little under 6 hours, and
Jesus.
My shoulder blades were burning, and it was just it was a zap of energy by the end of it. It's like a zombie. But yeah, no, I was able to achieve that. I've broken 1 million points on Donkey Kong. I'm 3rd in the world in Turbo Miss Pac-Man. So there's a myriad of games from the classic era that I definitely thoroughly enjoy to play. I don't own a cabinet at the moment though, and so I've kind of been out of the loop a little bit. That community, unfortunately, has had some problems because of one person in particular who is just not even worth mentioning.
I know who you're talking about, but I won't.
Yeah, but horrible. I don't want to get into it, but it's just it really ruined what was otherwise a pretty awesome community for a while. But I digress.
How good are you at Tetris?
Not too great. I can play it. I understand the concept of it
because that's my jam.
There's a guy who There's a guy who streams on Twitch, though, my friend Ethan, who's phenomenal. It's like a relaxing thing for him. He'll just stream it from his house while he's playing. I think he goes by F Symbols. F, the letter F, Symbols, F Symbols. And he's on usually every week. He's streaming Tetris on a Twitch.
That's my jam. I love Tetris. I've always been pretty good at it. I've never like tested my chops against, somebody really good, but I think I can hang. I'm Anthony using me, but I'm pretty good, right? Like I'm not, I'm blowing smoke here.
It's one of those things like in your friend group, you're king shit, but if you go to like a tournament, you'd probably get the floor mopped with you. But I don't know. I've seen some YouTube videos, and now they do the controller rolling, which is like innovation in that space. But anyway, Steve, we could talk video games.
I know, right?
We could.
But we're not here to do that, right? What are we going to do? We're talking hide nothing.
We've been fans of Shai Hulud since the early 2000s. I think at that point in time, we got into Strong Arm too, Advent of a Miracle record, and Furthest Seems Forever. Saw you guys in the early 2000s. I've just been a fan, just been a big fan, and it's why we had your bandmate Chad on. Yeah, Hide Nothing. I can't believe it. It turns 20 years. I cannot believe it. It's getting a reissue. How does the reissue all come together? Because it's this deluxe 20th anniversary edition coming out on Iodine Recordings. We know Casey from Iodine, great guy, perfect guy for the re-release. Yes. But how does it come together? Was there a phone call? Like, were you approached? Did you approach people? How does this happen?
I think I talked about it with Casey kind of in passing. Obviously, we've had relations dating back to the Darling Fire. When I was with them, we did the Distortions album for Iodine. Actually, I think both of our records are on Iodine. Man, can't even remember. The first album is called Dark Celebration. I think they were both. Oh, no, they weren't. That's right. First album was on Spartan, I think. Yeah, the Distortions album was on Iodine, and Casey, they just have a really great track record of reissuing releases and especially doing vinyl. They did a great job with the Stretch Armstrong material. They did a great job with Quicksand. And, when the idea was kind of being talked about within the band of, hey, the Hide Nothing anniversary's coming up, I was like, if we want to do a reissue, we should try to do it through Iodine. That was my vote, just to the rest of the guys in the band, like, because I knew Casey would give it the proper priority and attention and kind of game plan for it, as opposed to tooth and nail, typically. And so, everything came together. We, I think I may have brought it up to Casey just to see if there was even any interest on their part. And then he was like, "Oh, are you kidding me? We love that album. We love Bunch. We would love to be a part of it. So, let us know." We all wound up getting on a conference call with him and his people and the rest of my guys. And it just kind of naturally evolved from there. And sure enough, it's, just got a release probably a week or two ago at this point, I think. And then they're also really nice in giving us their own copies to have for these shows that we have coming up. And so we will have vinyl for everybody who happens to be in the areas that we're playing in. We'll have our own copies to sell as well.
Yeah, and Casey's awesome. You're right. That Quicksand reissue is great. It's still the only ad we've ever read on the podcast was Iodine's Quicksand reissue. So we shout out Casey, shout out Iodine. But when you guys are coming up with kind of the concept, what are you looking for? Are you like involved in the process as far as like what kind of variants you're gonna get? What do the T-shirts look like? All that stuff, or are you just like, let's do it, and then letting somebody else kind of figure it out?
To an extent, letting them figure it out. I mean, there's certain aspects we wanted to keep kind of original or natural with the original artwork and stuff. But obviously, they presented us some different variants and some different ideas and, very transparent. They're like, hey, you like this? Do you not like this? Is this cool? Do you want to adjust or change it? So usually they would kind of present us some different ideas, different variants or artwork or what have you. And then, we would kind of react off that or reply from that. What we liked, what we didn't like as much. and then eventually, it kind of all came together. I mean, it was, the credits, all that stuff. Like we had to kind of step by step just go through, make sure the layout was as good as it could be in appearance, and also as far as what was originally in the album for credits or thank yous. Like I think we consolidated a little bit on that kind of stuff. Different time period now, like for instance on my thank you list, I told them if you need space for other elements or stuff, you can take some of these original thanks away that are not, either not part of my life anymore or just not really relevant, these days, to as opposed to who I may have thanked back when the album was coming out. That was just for me, but with the thank you list, for instance. But yeah, no, they were, communication was great, back and forth through emails and PDF files and different concepts and art, and then we eventually gave it a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
The modern 2024 way, exchanging files, and not only on the pressing front, but I know that's how a lot of bands create music. A lot of band members are not in the same geographical region, so they're exchanging wave files and all this stuff. But I know you guys have played like Furnace Fest over the years, and like recently, you guys play a few shows every year. Has this like reissue and kind of this energy, has it like been a catalyst to do more stuff with the band? Or
we kind of do stuff, hard to explain. It's just when people feel like it.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of that, Steve, especially like with grown adults with their own lives that live in different parts of the country. I don't know, that your situation with the rest of the band, but we hear that a lot, and it's like we're kind of lucky to get what we get as fans, to be honest with you.
I mean, if it was up to me, I would definitely want us to do more, but I'm kind of like the road warrior of the group. I've always liked to tour, and that aspect of the band, which some of the other guys don't like as much. And don't get me wrong, I love writing, love being in the studio as well. Love the whole experience in my opinion, or in my case. But yeah, everybody lives somewhere different for the most part. Families, other careers. We kind of got to plan in advance to get 5 people's schedules to align to be able to commit to do something. Like I said, this next month coming up, we're going to be pretty active for us because we have 2 festivals, 2 club shows, and that's typically each year we kind of try to set aside a week or two, if it makes sense, to do some spot dates or some festivals or kind of mini touring. And yeah, whenever the opportunities arise and we're able to lock it in, I always look forward to it. It's always a fun time.
Well, and we're talking to you a couple of days before, but you're going back to the last Furnace Fest, I say in air quotes, right? Next weekend?
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Allegedly. Right.
We'll see how good it does, I guess. No, I love those guys, Chad and Ryan. They're great. We're doing because we played Furnace Fest last year, typically they don't have the same band play 2 years in a row. I would say Stretch Armstrong's probably an outlier. They're an exception to the rule, as an example. But we're doing the pre-fest. We're headlining the pre-fest show, where I think it's actually there's 2 different shows going on in the same venue or the same area, and that would be that's coming Thursday. Yeah, it's coming quick. So Thursday, October 3rd is the pre-fest or pre-Furnace Fest show. And then we've been invited to hang around. I know, like, obviously my buds in Shialoo, they'll be playing Saturday, the second day of the festival. So I actually don't know if I'll be able to stay that long. I was hoping they played the first day of the festival, because then I could have definitely stuck around that long. But I don't know if I'll be able to stick around 2 extra days. But yeah, we're doing I believe we play the night before the first day of actual Furnace Fest. And so, yeah, we look forward to it. It should be fun.
Yeah, and like you said, it's kind of a throwback. You're playing there's 3 dates in Florida later in the month, and they're bound back-to-back days. And you probably haven't done that with Further for years, like a little mini weekend like that. So that must be cool. Must be exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of bang bang. We do another pre Fest show, but this one would be for Fest, or it's called Fest in Gainesville, Florida. And then we play a club date in Tampa, and then we play actual Fest on that Saturday. Yeah, I think that is 3 days in a row. So yeah, we don't usually. I mean, like last year, we did a little touring out west. I think it was in September, and we did like 3 dates in California, I think, and they were kind of every other day. It may have been 2 that were 2 days in a row, and then a day off, and then a third one, and that was with the Movie Life. They had invited us. Yeah, they invited us to do their anniversary of their Jamestown, I think.
Yeah, 40-hour train. Yep.
40-hour train back to Penn. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, great guys. I like that record quite a bit, actually. Great album, and it was fun doing those shows with them. So, we get offered stuff. I mean, we technically have a booking agent still. He'll present some stuff to us. I think he brought up something for next year. I'm not sure if we're able to do it though or not. And I know we had Japan on the table to do, and I think something fell through with the flights being more expensive than what was projected. So it was just one of those things, like being able to afford to do it. That's still in the cards, maybe in the future to go back to Japan. We played there many moons ago. I think it was 2005, and that was the Bunch lineup of the group. So yeah, I'm sure we'll do more stuff next year. Just, not sure what, not sure when, just, when it happens, it happens.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's talk the album itself, Hide Nothing. So like we said, we've been further fans since the Moon is Down era. So you guys go from the Moon is Down, How to Start a Fire, Hide Nothing. If you kind of rewind the clock, where were you guys creatively, like after How to Start a Fire and then kind of gearing up for Hide Nothing? Were you, because I know you got, there's a lot going on, right? New singer, the scene's popping off, So where were you guys creatively, kind of coming off of How to Start a Fire in prep for Hide Nothing?
Well, the music was already written. It was originally supposed to be an album with Jason. And, some unfortunate stuff happened. That's water under the bridge now, but he left the band. We had just toured at the end of 2003, the UK. That was an interesting tour. It was us. We shared a bus with Coheed and Cambria.
Nice.
And then it was us, Coheed, and Thursday.
Oh, what a lineup!
And that was a crazy tour in the UK for about like a week and a half. So basically, on the heels of that, we had already written a bunch of music, but then like I said, Jason left. We were caught in a rock and a hard place because we had a tour coming up, which was called the Tooth and Nail Tour, that we were supposed to headline, and unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. And then we had this music where there was only vocals or lyrics written for one song, and
oh wow,
otherwise we just had this body of music of these different songs that needed to be finished. I remember at the time, being still on Tooth and Nail, they, I think we had a deadline even, like that they were kind of like, hey, you need to figure this out because, we were expecting a record by such and such time. And so basically we had a road manager at the time. His name is Chuck Andrews. We nicknamed him Cute. And he's gone on. He worked with Coheed and Cambria for a long time, kind of does his own stuff now. But at the time, he was, I believe he was the road manager for Sensefield. And, Jeremy Wise from CI in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, they all kind of knew the Sensefield guys. And so I guess Sensefield was also going through a situation with their record being shelved, I think, by Warner Brothers or something. They were having some, turmoil with the record label and with the record being able to come out. And I think it just got to a point where Bunch was available. And Chuck, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, Chuck connected the dots, so to speak, and was basically like, hey, I think your vibe would fit perfectly with Further. They're looking for a singer. I remember Chris wasn't available, Chris Graba. He was just knee deep in his other stuff at the time. So what happened was, and John's in California, we're in Florida, so we couldn't be further apart. But I think I remember we sent him a demo of a few of the songs, and then he sent back some vocal ideas, and they sounded great. And so he basically flew to California, and he went to live with our engineer, James Wisner, who had worked with us on, I think, all of our records at that point, all of our full lengths. And he literally lived with James Wisner for a month and just kind of crash course the music and wrote what he wrote, and Hide Nothing came out of it. So it was pretty incredible.
Did you have to tweak anything musically with the change of vocalists? Do you remember?
No, the music stayed the same. One
Right
thing
on.
he did request is the one song that there was vocals or lyrics that Jason wrote. He didn't want to hear the vocals. He only wanted to hear the music. He didn't want to be influenced just, vicariously by anything that was written prior. And so, we made sure that he only got the audio or the music version of that song, which was originally called There Now I've Said It when Jason did it. But then Jon kind of transformed it, made it his own, and it's called Bleed, of course.
Great song.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites actually on the record.
Hey, you go nuts on the drums. You flex on the drums. Trust me. I know it. I hear it.
That song's kind of involved, which, by the way, we'll be playing that actually on this on these shows coming up. So, which we don't usually play that song.
Take that song, which, like, if you isolate on the drums, you can tell you're not dealing with an amateur. You know what I mean? You can tell someone that's very skilled. Is it tough to go from some of these, heavy bands like Shai Hulud and Strong Arm to the further sound, or is it just another kind of tool in your tool belt?
Part of the reason it's natural is because who I'm writing with or who I'm collaborating with. Josh Colbert, who's the main writer with Further, and then even dating back to Shai Hulud with Matt. I mean, their styles of guitar or their approach to guitar is a perfect marriage for how I think about incorporating drums or time signatures. Like there's a lot of transition and motion in their writing, and it just happens to go perfectly with what I think to do once we get in the weeds of a song. And so it's kind of a natural thing. People do, will say I'm unorthodox, but it's just how it naturally comes out of me. I'm not really forcing anything to a certain extent, but it's definitely in part a combo thing with where the initial guitar and music is kind of floating or going. And and shout out to the singers, all of our singers, because they do a phenomenal job of making this music compatible.
Agree.
By figuring out choruses and hooks and catchiness, because the music by itself would be more of just a complex thing to a certain extent, but it's the singers have really, we were just very thankful to have three different guys who, had different approaches to what they did, but they all had a sensibility of compartmentalizing and making the music compatible eventually, which was, I give a feather in all their caps.
So coming from kind of the more hardcore kind of scene with Strong Arm, Shai Hulud, having, fast drum playing, it kind of comes through with Further, but it also, you have a sensibility there where you're it's different. Were you bringing some of that to this record? And I mean, any Further record, really?
I think with the heavier bands, I think maybe there was more of an aggressive tip to it or aggressive version of it. And with Further, the reason, from the beginning, I guess we kind of wanted to write different stuff so we weren't so pigeonholed into just a specific genre, even though what we wrote for that particular genre was probably different than most bands in that genre, the way they wrote music. But it's just like variety. I'm very eclectic in what I listen to in general. I was never really just a soul, how do I say it? I wasn't like just only like in the hardcore scene. Like I've always kind of been all over as far as I go, I've always been kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So I take inspiration and influence from like all kinds of stuff, that some stuff you would know, some stuff you've probably never heard of, but it all kind of incorporates into the overall vibe of what I think to do as these songs evolve. But it's definitely maybe, I don't know if less aggressive is the right word, but just a little more broadened horizons of being able to do whatever within the realm of rock. Because hardcore, it's like, in the end, it's, you expect at least remotely a certain type of sound. And with further, I kind of feel there's liberty in a way to kind of,
Yeah.
it's like a dichotomy of we can cover a lot of different avenues, but there is a formula to it as well, inherently, or somewhat of a formula to what we do in playing together for so long, as far as the most of us that have played together for a while. So
yeah, the further Seems Forever story is kind of one of a kind, right? It's multiple singers, but they're all you guys. That's the crazy part. A lot of times you get a new vocalist in there, it's like this is a completely different band. But I listened to, well, I know all 4 records, but like up to Hide Nothing. Was there a time when maybe you didn't think like Hide Nothing would even come out?
Well, yeah. I mean, when that period of time happened, when Jason left and we were kind of like, what do we do with this music? Yeah. I mean, like if Jon Bunch hadn't materialized, yeah, I can't really say in hindsight, like what would have actually happened.
You or Chad would have stepped up and done the vocals. You and Chad Neptune.
Yeah.
Probably not. We probably would have eventually found somebody, but I don't really know what would have happened. It would have been interesting. Maybe eventually, given more time, maybe Chris would have chimed in. If there wasn't like a strict time frame to get it done contractually anyway at the time. But yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, if Bunch hadn't come around, it's interesting, parallel universe, what would have happened
Right.
with the music.
When Bunch did join, was there ever any thought to just starting over completely?
I think if I remember correctly, don't quote me on it, I thought Josh in particular had kind of a conflict about that. Like, do we stay further or do we just call this a new band? But obviously we decided, I think, for the sake of the contractual obligations and people, we had been a band under that title for as long as we had. The prevailing thought prevailed by just saying Further Seems Forever. But yeah, I think if I remember correctly, the thought had been talked about if we're just going to call this something different with Jon or not.
So Steve, we're 20 years out, which I can't believe. Like if someone asked me when this album came out, I probably would have said 15 years ago. I just I can't believe it. But how do you look back at it? Because I know the band was in flux at the time and going through some changes. How do you look back at it? Like I know we love the record. We love it. It stands alone. Forget the catalog. Just as its own entity, it's a phenomenal record. How do you look back at it?
Thank you. I'm actually really glad it's getting a reissue so it can be rediscovered and discovered. Because I remember at the time, unfortunately, in some ways, we loved the music as well. We loved the product that it became with Jon. But there was definitely a sector of our listener base that wasn't very receptive to it when it first came out. And I think part of the reason was because maybe Jon didn't have the look of Jason and Chris. He was a little older.
All day. Yeah.
Different singing style. I mean, I've even heard people comment it's more of a contemporary or mature record or what have you. So I just remember when it came out, I think it's the least selling record out of all of our records too, except for maybe with Penny Black, which was the newer one we did with Chris, which actually is a great record as well. I love that record. Didn't get as much of it. We tried to do some stuff with it, but we had some unfortunate weather circumstances that kind of curtailed the touring we were trying to do with that one. But with Hide Nothing, it's one of those things. Like I think there's a sector of people that are appreciating it more now than maybe they did when it first came out.
I think you're right, Steve. I would agree with that. Having lived it in the moment, I think maybe a lot of people were, like, oh, it's another singer, it's a change here. But I think
Third singer,
yeah, have it breathe for 20 years, and then I think the Bunch legacy is maybe bigger than ever too. Which, I mean, we love Sensefield, so
absolutely, we do too. So yeah, I think the time is right. Now, obviously, 20 years is typically, with album cycles being that old, if you had a listener base, or if you established any kind of tenure as a working band, it's usually a milestone. And yeah, I'm awesome to see it get kind of new life, new breath, and see what how receptive people are to it now.
It's a good point, because I mean, everything goes in cycles, right? Every 20 years or so, people either discover or rediscover stuff. I know when we were 17, 18, 19, hearing stuff for the first time and then coming back to it now, that's, I mean, our podcast, a lot of times we're looking back on things that we listened to 20 years ago, and 25 in some cases. So I'm glad that this is getting that treatment, because it should. I mean, it's a great record. You guys knocked it out of the park. The pre-order looks sick. The show notes will have a link to stuff, so get in there and get yourself a copy of it. But yeah, exciting stuff for further, and got some shows coming up at the end of October here. I know we touched on them a little bit, but excited to play those, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, look forward to seeing all the guys, and we're gonna get a quick rehearsal in the night before the pre-Furnace Fest, and then yeah, and that one is just kind of a one-off, and then we take a few weeks, and then we do the other three back to back in the state of Florida. And so yeah, anybody that's in those areas, definitely come out, say hello, and rock with us.
That's funny you say that, rehearsal. I always wonder how bands prep for these maybe like non-active bands that have, they do the annual shows, how much they prep and all that. And we've heard some prep over they do it remotely. I don't know how that works, but yeah, if you're in the Florida region, and what is it, it's late October, right? October 23rd, yeah, 24th, 25th, Orlando, Tampa, Gainesville. So actually that's in your neck of the woods, so you don't have to travel much.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I am traveling quite a bit for Alabama, because I actually I'm kind of the odd man out driving up there. The rest of the guys are our guitarist Derek lives in South Carolina. I think he's coming down with a van or something. The rest of the guys are flying into Atlanta, and then they're just going to all drive together from Atlanta to Birmingham. In my case, I'm driving to Birmingham I'm a little bit closer, living in the Orlando area, but it's still, quite a drive. But so yeah, so I'll be leaving a little over a day before the night of the show to get there and do some last minute rehearsal, and then just relax, and then get ready to do the do.
Nice. Yeah. Any thoughts of new music? Has that been talked about at all?
It's been remotely talked about with the Moon Is Down lineup. We do have some songs that were never quite finished, or some music from a while back that I still personally love. I was like, man, I really want this stuff to come out at some point, if Chris ever finishes them on his end, and then also on our end, just maybe refreshing and seeing if we want to restructure it or add to it, or even do something new. So at some point, no guarantee, but I would like to think with the original lineup, we'll probably later than sooner maybe put out some old new music.
Nice.
Maybe, as far as ideas that we've had for a while that just didn't get all the way finished, or even stuff that I know I talked with Josh recently, and he, for the first time in a while, he had actually mentioned, we should write some new stuff. And I was like, hey, you don't got to ask me twice, because I always love writing with Josh. He's just a savant, very, very gifted, special writing sensibility, guitar wise. And then most of those guys actually live really close to each other in Franklin, Tennessee, near
nice.
Nashville. Josh, Nick, Chris, they all live there. our good friend Chad Gilbert, little Chad. He lives right down the street from him, from a Newfound. I'm the only one that lives in the area I'm in currently, and then Chad and our other guitarist Josh Diaz, they live in South Florida still. I used to live in South Florida. I've been up here about 2 years now from Pompano Beach.
We've chatted with enough people to know that that's how it starts. Is there's one person that maybe has an interest to create new music more than others, and it's just a conversation. There's always a few people that are like, hey, I'm not the roadblock. If you can get this one person on board or that person on board, it's a good chance there's an album coming out of it. There's always a couple people that are chomping at the bit. Yeah,
no, never say never. That's what I always say, and we'll see what happens as we go along. Like I said, we all talk with each other. We have a text thread that, somebody will put something funny in every 5 days from now. And we're always in broad contact with each other and just checking up on each other. Hey, how's everybody doing? And stuff like that. Or maybe somebody's sending a funny link or telling a funny story that happened. So we're always in, some bit of contact through just our text threads that we have together and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, hopefully we can do something at some point.
Cool. Yeah. So go peep the Hide Nothing reissue from Iodine Recordings. Good friend Casey there, and really excited to talk to you today, Steve. We had a blast talking about this and going down memory lane again, and finding out what's going on in your camp right now.
Awesome, man. No, it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Steve, real treat. You've been on a lot of legacy albums that we love. Like I listened to Hearts Once Nourished last night. I listened to Advent maybe a month ago. Moon is Down, maybe pretty recent, and it like you're the connective tissue. So it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. All right, have a great one, guys. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you. Well, yeah, let's rock.
The guy who keeps calling me, by the way, is Matt Fox from Shialoot.
Oh, wow. Nice. Get him on here. Yeah.
Yeah. Have him join.
He's the last member still remaining.
The 6 degrees of Shialoot.
Well, I used to be in Shy. I was the original drummer.
Yeah. No, we had that, and we're always joking because we had Damien Moyal, Asheron's Rush, Shialoot, you, but there's always kind of a tie, like we're not far away with somebody that we have on, which is cool because it doesn't, it's that band has just had so many members.
A Kevin Bacon thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is.